Watch as this loser becomes the key to stopping the war between demons and humans by using a toilet? It starts with Shibuya Yuri resting on his cycle, staring at the baseball team practicing. His classmate pops up behind him, asking the youth how he's doing. His friend suggests that he shouldn't join the basketball team as it demands time and effort, and high school is, in his opinion, more about enjoying oneself. Yuri mutters something to himself and responds that he was just watching, then cycles away. On his way across the neighborhood, Yuri stops by to notice a former classmate of his, Murata Ken, being bullied by a group of 4 boys. Yuri intervenes, allowing Murata to run away. However, this turns the rowdy boys' attention towards Yuri. They inflict the worst possible punishment upon him, dragging him into the ladies' room and flushing his entire body down a toilet. As odd and disgusting that is, that's not all. Yuri seems to see a black vortex as he swirls in the toilet water. He is sucked into a portal of sorts and finds himself lying down in an open, lush green meadow. Opening his eyes, the young man appears visibly confused. He doesn't remember the place he's at. Looking about, Yuri watches a woman in a strange medieval dress carrying a basket of peculiar-looking fruit. He approaches the woman to learn his whereabouts, but upon interacting with him, she gets frightened. She shouts something in a foreign language and runs away, calling upon her fellow villagers. The villagers, also dressed in medieval outfits like the woman, approach Yuri whilst carrying farming tools as weapons. The strange people start throwing rocks at Yuri. Suddenly, a blonde man in a brown cape appears on a black horse. The tall, broad figure approaches Yuri and grabs his head with both of his gigantic hands. Casting some sort of magic on Yuri, he releases his hands. Yuri is surprised to learn the effect of his action. He can now understand what these foreign people are saying. The blonde man refers to Yuri as the next Demon King, and the villagers also refer to him as one of the demon tribesmen. But so far, Yuri has no idea what this means. From somewhere afar, 3 horsemen gallop towards Yuri, shouting out his name. There seems to be a weird skeleton with wings looming above them. The leader of the horsemen, Lord Conrart Weller, draws his sword and clashes with the blonde man, revealing his name, Adalbert von Grantz. The Flying Bone Tribe creature, under Lord Conrart's command, picks up Yuri and flies away. Adalbert cries out that he will rescue Yuri soon. But the boy, still haven't been able to grasp the situation he's been put into, can't decide which side is right. Later that afternoon, Yuri arrives at some village that Conrart takes him to. A purple-haired man, Ganter von Christ, greets Yuri and, to his astonishment, calls him Your Majesty. Still confused, Yuri thinks that he has been taken to some theme park where everyone is cosplaying. Ganter then begins to explain the reality of his situation to him. He tells Yuri that he was supposed to be born in this foreign land 18 years ago. However, due to some sort of threat to his life, the Great One decided to transport his spirit to a different world, Earth. On Earth, Yuri was born to and raised by his current parents. But a situation has come up in this foreign land, and now Yuri is needed here. Yuri, the Demon King, his power is needed to vanquish the enemies of the demon tribesmen, humans. Ganter exclaims that starting today, Yuri's rule as the 27th Demon King begins. The next morning, Ganter and Conrart escort Yuri to the capital of the Great Demon Kingdom, his new home. Yuri is welcomed there with many flowers and celebrations. Lord Stoffel von Spitzweg, the former Demon Queen's brother, is also there to welcome the new Demon King. As Yuri is passing through the city on horseback, a honeybee startles his horse, sending it into a full-speed gallop. Running as fast as it can, the horse reaches the entrance of a castle where it is stopped by a man in green. The man does not seem happy when he finds out that Yuri is the new Demon King. At that moment, a handsome blonde young man descends the stairs of the palace and stands before Yuri. And from the looks of it, he too has his concerns with the newly appointed Demon King. More on him later. For now, Yuri is escorted inside where he relaxes in a giant bath exclusively made for him. Just as he sniffs a pleasant scent in the room, he is shocked to see a naked tall woman enter the bath. Embarrassed and awkward, Yuri rushes out of the bathroom. As he is making his way outside with a towel wrapped around his crotch area, he runs into Ganter and Conrart and tells them about his experience. Not really concerned with the situation, Conrart informs Yuri that he is going to attend a dinner party for the Great One. That evening, whilst attending said party, Yuri feels the dinner is more of a war council, given that there are a total of 5 seats at the dinner table. Here, Conrart introduces the man in green and the handsome young blonde man, who are seated alongside Yuri at the dinner table. The man in green is Conrart's elder brother, Lord Gwendel von Voltaire, whereas the blonde is his younger brother, Lord Wolfram von Bielefeld. Wolfram recoils in anger when Conrart touches him, claiming that he does not consider Conrart his elder brother because he is a mere human. Conrart explains that the trio of brothers have different fathers. That is when the beautiful woman from the earlier bathroom scene enters the room. What's more shocking is that she's the mother of Gwendel, Wolfram, and Conrart, titled as the former Demon Queen. Her name is Cecilia von Spitzweg, but she likes to be called Celie. Everyone then proceeds to eat their dinner. While chatting with Yuri, Cecilia remarks that her older brother and sons will serve him wholeheartedly. In response to her remark, Wolfram lashes out, claiming that he has no intention of serving Yuri as there is no evidence so far that he is indeed the Demon King. In addition to this claim, Wolfram crosses a line by insulting Yuri's human mother. Infuriated, Yuri slaps the young blonde man. Ganter then reveals that according to ancient tradition of demon tribe aristocrats, slapping another person's left cheek is a means of proposing marriage to them. Wolfram angrily turns over the dinner table, spilling plates and utensils. When Yuri picks up the knife intentionally dropped by Wolfram, the blonde boy smirks. It is informed that the gesture of picking up an opponent's knife made by Yuri equals challenging Wolfram to a duel by tradition. Just great. Later that night, Yuri spends some time with Conrart practicing swordsmanship. When he learns that Conrart knows about baseball, the two spend the rest of the night playing catch. Yuri also gets to know that Conrart was present alongside his mother in a taxi when she was pregnant with him. He then hands Yuri a necklace containing a dark blue stone. The next day, everyone observes as Yuri and Wolfram face each other. Yuri turns the duel into a sumo wrestling match. He quickly knocks down Wolfram. Angered by this absurdity, Wolfram charges at him with his sword, saying that to rule this country, its king will have to duel by the local rules. Conrart passes his sword to Yuri just in time. As Yuri fends off Wolfram's advance, he remembers his father's advice in baseball. Yuri swings his sword as if he is hitting a home run and knocks Wolfram's blade out of his hands. In retaliation, Wolfram resorts to using magic spells. Ganter protests, but Gwendel dismisses him, saying that it is necessary to see whether Yuri truly is the Demon King. Yuri manages to dodge all of Wolfram's magic attacks, but when the last attack, a beast made of fire, hits a maid in the palace, something inside of Yuri's spirit awakens. The sky suddenly turns gray and it starts to rain. Yuri's voice deepens and his hair grows long. The power of the Demon King inside of him has been triggered because Wolfram harmed an innocent girl. Yuri then uses magic to manipulate the water from the raindrops, molding it into 2 sea serpents. The serpents wrap themselves tightly around Wolfram, raising him high into the air. Upon seeing this, Gwendel finally acknowledges Yuri as the true Demon King. Yuri, still in his trance, gives Wolfram a nice little warning, and the faints returning to normal. Yuri wakes up 3 days later. As soon as he awakens, he asks about the maid's well-being. Ganter reassures him by explaining that Gwendel protected her with a magic barrier before she could get fatally injured. Wolfram tells Yuri that Conrad and Gwendel have gone off to settle a skirmish at a human refugee town near the border. So Yuri convinces Wolfram to take him outside the village during the night to help. The next day, as Yuri and Wolfram are riding toward the village, Yuri notices that a Flying Bone tribe member is following them. They run into Adalbert on the way, and he uses a spell on Wolfram and his soldiers that prevents them from moving. Adalbert then tries to convince Yuri that being the Demon King will just make him an enemy to all humans, and that he will end up hating ordinary beings. The large man tries to tell Yuri that he's a normal human because he's not affected by the spell. Wolfram manages to overcome the spell enough to tell Yuri not to listen to Adalbert because he's a demon tribe member who betrayed them. Adalbert then tells Wolfram that the humans that he hates so much are burning a demon tribe town. It is a fight between humans. Yuri is shocked that humans would attack other humans. Wolfram suggests that Adalbert must have instigated it, and Adalbert says he just told some people who were in the middle of a famine where to get some food. Yuri thinks it's horrible that humans would do that to each other, and Adalbert says the humans in this village aren't the same because they sided with the demon tribe. Adalbert tells Yuri to come with him before he is corrupted by the demon tribe. Wolfram tells Yuri to go with Adalbert for now, since it doesn't seem like he wants to hurt him, and that he'll come back to get him. Yuri gets off the horse and then moves Wolfram's foot against the horse to make it run away. Yuri then tells Adalbert that he's already decided to help the demon tribe. Hearing this, Adalbert decides he must kill him because he can't convince him to go against the demon tribe anymore. Adalbert swings his sword at Yuri, and at the last second, a Flying Bone tribe member flies down and gets in the way. The winged skeleton shatters, and Yuri is sad that it sacrificed itself to save him. Adalbert charges at Yuri again, but Conrad shows up and stops him. Adalbert is forced to flee. Conrad hugs Yuri, and Wolfram returns. Yuri asks how Conrad knew he was there, to which he tells him that the Flying Bone tribe can communicate with each other telepathically. Yuri then tries to bury the dead creature, but Conrad tells him if they just put it back together, it will go back to normal. Conrad, Yuri, and Wolfram then head down to the village, and Yuri passes a medical tent where he meets a young woman named Gisela. He tries helping a wounded man, but the person refuses to let a demon tribe member touch him. Yuri goes back outside and stands with Conrad and Wolfram, worrying over all the fighting. Gwendol rides up with a man who is suspected of starting the attack. Gwendol says that the reason they couldn't stop the fire is because it was magic. Gwendol asks if Yuri is there just as a spectator, or if he is planning to use his water ability to help. Wolfram informs him that Yuri doesn't remember using magic and that it was just a miracle he performed subconsciously. Yuri can't understand what they are talking about. Gwendol then has his soldiers take the man in charge of the attack to the villagers who lived in the village and tells them that they can kill him or do whatever they want with him. Yuri gets upset at this and says killing him won't solve anything. He asks why they aren't putting out the fire. Conrad explains that fire started by magic can't be put out very easily. They need a water user to put it out. Wolfram then asks Gwendol if this can be used as a reason to declare war. Gwendol tells him that it might, but that their opponents do not really have any soldiers, so it would probably just be best to punish those involved. Yuri is upset by this conversation, and then turns to Conrad and answers his question about whether humans fight against each other on Earth. He says they do, but the difference is there is always someone wanting to stop them. Gwendol then remarks that if he doesn't plan on being the Demon King, then he should stay out of it because he must protect the Demon Tribe, and this is their way of doing things. Yuri then responds that if that is the case, he'll become the Demon King and change the ways of the Demon Tribe. The guy who the soldiers are holding breaks free and comes at Yuri with a knife. He takes Yuri hostage and asks for a horse, so Gwendol gets down from his and offers it to the man. The man tells Yuri to get on the horse, and while he is doing so, a young boy comes running at the man. The boy knocks the man down, which gives them enough time to capture him. But in this process, the boy gets hurt. The boy asks if Yuri is the king and if he'll protect the village. To this, Yuri affirms and taps into his Demon King powers to call upon rain and put the fire out. The scene then changes to Yuri's coronation ceremony. All he must do is put his hand in a waterfall, but when he does, he is once again pulled through the water and thrown back on Earth. He wakes up back in the girl's bathroom stall where he was transported from. Murata and a police officer are there looking at him. Telling himself that it must have all been a dream, Yuri tries to justify his memory, but then a sudden realization hits him. His pants are down. He remembers that Ganter, in an attempt to stop Yuri from being sucked in, grabbed his belt and his pants came off. For the next few days, Yuri enjoys his life on Earth. Today's the big baseball game. He wears the necklace containing that blue stone given to him by Conrad with the thought that everything he experienced in the alternate world was real. Yuri has started his own baseball team, with Murata as team manager. Yuri heads out to the living room for breakfast and asks his mother, Miko, where his father is, to which she says he is out golfing. Yuri thinks it's odd for a member of the demon tribe to be playing golf. He then asks about his brother, and his mother replies that he's still sleeping. As Yuri rushes outside along with Murata, who has come to pick him, Miko mutters to herself about his responsibilities as Demon King. Yep, she knows everything about Yuri. Miko then looks through a picture book after Yuri leaves and reminisces about the time when she met her husband and when her son was born. During the day, Yuri plays some baseball, and after the game, he and Murata go to take a bath at the public bathhouse. While still inside the bath, Yuri is sucked back into the alternative world. All the while, Murata does not notice. When he arrives there, he ends up in another bathhouse where he is received by Ganter, Conrad, and 3 other demon tribesmen. Later, Yuri notices that they are in a different palace than the previous one, upon which Conrad informs him that it is Voltaire Castle, located in the eastern side of the Demon Kingdom. Ganter asks Yuri that he must be prepared to fight a war. At that moment, Gwendol and Wolfram enter the room as well. However, Yuri protests over going to war and claims that he will say no to fighting humans. He suggests that they must negotiate first. As Yuri and Gwendol are arguing, a red-haired lady enters the room. She introduces herself as Lady Anisina von Karbelnikov, a member of the 10 aristocrats. She is also Gwendol's childhood friend. Later that day, Yuri goes to Gwendol in his capacity as Demon King. He seeks his opinion on ways of stopping the war. Ganter and Yuri's other advisors think it is a good idea for Yuri to hunt down the legendary sword, Morgif. It is a weapon said to be wielded only by a Demon King. Its sheer power can frighten the humans so much that they would not dare to start a war with the demon tribe. Therefore, Yuri decides to travel to the faraway island of Vandavia to retrieve the demon sword. Everyone's searching for Yuri, all worried sick. Meanwhile, he, Conrad, and Wolfram are on a boat headed toward Vandavia Island. Wolfram had snuck on board the ship, but he gets seasick easily, hence is bedridden. Conrad dyes Yuri's hair brown and gives him brown contacts so he won't stand out as the Demon King. Conrad and Yuri go off to find food and run into Hiscliff and his daughter Beatrice in the hallway. Hiscliff greets him with the traditional cavalcade royal greeting by taking off his hat with hair attached, which shocks Yuri. Conrad introduces them with fake identities. Suddenly, Yuri hears shouting from another part of the ship and runs to see what's going on. He sees the captain of the ship hitting Rick, a worker on the ship. Given Yuri's disgust at the scene, Conrad bribes the man into leaving Rick alone. Later, there is a dance party on the ship, and Yuri is shocked that the humans just throw the bones from their food onto the deck of the ship. A man, dressed as a woman, comes up to them and asks to dance with Yuri, but then a whole bunch of girls get in an argument over who will dance with him. Hiscliff sees the commotion and suggests he dances with his daughter instead. Yuri dances with her, and she says that the odd brown color of his hair and eyes doesn't suit him. Yuri rubs his eye, and his contact comes loose, so he escapes the dance floor and runs into Rick below deck. Rick tells him he's happy to be working on the ship. Yuri goes back to his room, and Wolfram yells at him for dancing with a female. As he is yelling, the ship is attacked by pirates. Conrad comes to check on them and tells them to hide in a closet from the pirates. The pirates search the ship for people, and while they are in Yuri's room, he accidentally hits a box. Alerted, they come to check what's inside the closet, but Yuri meows to make them think it's a cat. However, in the other world, cats go meh, and a horrible monster, a Zomosagoli dragon, makes a meow sound. So they go to get back up to fight the monster. Wolfram comes out ready to fight, but Yuri orders him not to. and so they are captured. The head pirate captures the women and children to work on his ship and orders the men to be killed. Yuri yells at them that they are wrong, and when he sees them manhandling Beatrice, he goes into Demon King mode like he did during his duel with Wolfram. He uses the bones that the passengers had been throwing on the deck to make a monster with his magic. A Cimarron patrol boat comes to arrest the pirates, and Yuri passes out. Yuri sleeps for 2 days and wakes up in the brig of the Cimarron ship, along with Wolfram and Conrad, because their true identities had been exposed. The cross-dressing man from the party, Guerriere Josak, intervenes, freeing the party from the cell and escaping on a lifeboat. Away from enemy eyes, Josak joyously paddles away, singing a local Vandavia song. Eventually, the party arrives on Vandavia Island. They stop at an inn, and the waitress there tells them that there is a festival at the other volcano. Yuri worries that they might have come to the wrong place, but Conrad tells him that they came to the right one. Josak comments that their destination is a spring at the top of the mountain in front of them. Upon hearing this, the girl is shocked. She tells them a story of a meteorite coming and bringing a demonic object that cursed the springs near the volcano 15 years ago. Josak, Conrad, and Yuri head to the spring to attempt to get more geef. They get into a boat and paddle to the middle of the spring. While he is paddling, Josak gets burned by a splash of water. Yuri puts his bare hand into the water to check the temperature, and it feels fine to him. But strangely, as soon as a drop of water falls on his clothes, it burns him. Thus, they decide that Yuri has to get naked in order to dive into the water to get Morgif out. Hence, Yuri takes off his clothes and jumps into the water. He reaches for Morgif, but the face on the sword bites him, so Yuri runs away. Josak responds sarcastically to Yuri, freaking out, and Yuri gets upset at him. Josak tells him that even though he doesn't understand his feelings, it's the duty of the people to follow him no matter what. They return to the inn then. At the inn, Wolfram wonders why Yuri did not get the sword. Yuri says the sword bit him, and Wolfram is surprised since he's been reading Ganter's diary. The diary states that the sword should follow the Demon King no matter what. Wolfram reads an entry from the diary explaining that the sword eats human souls to gain power. The blonde explains that there's no point in their trip if Yuri doesn't get the sword, so he will accompany him as Yuri is being a wimp. Yuri gets flustered at being called a wimp, but feels better, and thanks Wolfram for coming along. Wolfram reminds him that the whole reason he came along is because Yuri proposed to him, and now he is bound to watch over him. Yuri says he forgot all about it and offers to break the engagement, but Wolfram refuses and hides in a closet. After Wolfram has fallen asleep, Yuri attempts to go talk to Conrad, but he overhears Conrad and Josak talking. Josak claims that he was just trying to see what kind of Demon King Yuri was, but Conrad tells him if he ever does anything like that again, he'll have him removed from service. Josak laments that the Lion of Luttenberg has become so soft, and then mentions that if Adalbert found out that Conrad gave Yuri the blue pendant, his blood would boil. The next day, Yuri heads to the spring by himself and gets the sword. When he comes out, Conrad is there waiting for him. Then gathering, the party of 4 take the sword to a hospital in hopes that someone would die, and the sword would be able to eat a soul that way. However, every single time someone was about to die, they'd see Wolfram and get better. The group then attempts to think of another way to satisfy the sword, and Conrad goes off to look for something. While he is away, Josak tricks Yuri into entering a fight to the death in the arena. It is revealed that Yuri's opponent in the arena is Rick. At the Colosseum, Yuri is forced to fight Rick. Yuri thinks that Rick has been mistaken as a pirate, but Rick tells him that he actually was a pirate and lured the other pirates to the ship. Yuri tries to talk him out of the fight, but Rick knows that the only way he'll be allowed to live is if he kills Yuri, so it's do or die. Yuri tries to get Morgif to use some sort of special attack instead of having to fight Rick. Yuri hears Morgif in his mind telling him to do what he knows. And so, Yuri uses the broad side of the sword like a bat and knocks Rick in the stomach. He tries convincing Rick to attempt an escape with him, and Rick even agrees. But that is when an arrow is shot by the guards that comes piercing into him. This act upsets Yuri a great deal, and he almost ends up awakening his Demon King mode. But that when an old man in the audience dies from a heart attack, giving Morgiff the opportunity to consume his soul. Morgiff starts spitting fire and everyone panics. Conrad tries to come help, but he too is blown away by Morgiff's power. Yuri hears Morgiff inside his head again. The sword tells him to call its name. Yuri acts on its instructions and does so, making Morgiff's rampage stop. Yuri gets Conrad to help Rick and tries to give a lady some money for her sick son. She freaks out and refuses to take the money because Yuri is a part of the demon tribe. She tells him that the humans will make an even stronger weapon to fight them. Yuri leaves the money for her anyway, and they leave. The group then runs off to the coast, where Selly is waiting for them aboard her ship. Selly asks if Yuri has made any progress with her son, and Yuri denies it. While they talk, Conrad leaves the room. Yuri follows him and finds Conrad yelling at Josak. Infuriated, he claims that Josak knew exactly what he was getting Yuri into. Josak says it ended up being fine, and that nothing would have happened if he had just left it up to Yuri. But Conrad tells him that his ways are wrong, and he's just doing what Stoffel did with Selly. Josak says that Selly's problem wasn't that she couldn't rule, it was just that she trusted the wrong people. Conrad tells him he will not let him use Yuri as a puppet, and if he ever attempts what he did again, he will kill him. Later that night, Yuri and Conrad are sitting on a beach. Yuri tells Conrad about why he quit the baseball team. When he was in middle school, there was a first year who missed catching a ball, which ended up costing them the game. The coach got angry and yelled at him, saying that he wasn't qualified to play baseball. Hearing this, Yuri got so worked up that punched the coach, saying that he was the one who wasn't qualified for his job. Thus, he was kicked off the team. Yuri tells Conrad that he wants to leave Morgiff behind on the island because of what the old lady said. If the humans really do make a stronger weapon, then a war would be horrible. Wolfram comes and finds them and tells them something has happened to Morgiff. Back on the ship, Selly tells them that she was looking at it and it bit her. In reaction to the bite, she dropped it and the stone on the sword came off. Yuri takes the stone and hands it to Josak, telling him to throw it away somewhere such that no one could find it. Josak asks if he's sure. He tells him that he might give it to someone else, and Yuri says he trusts him to do the right thing. Upon everyone's return to the castle, Ganter cries over Yuri. The purple-haired man then explains that even if the stone is lost and Morgiff becomes an ordinary sword, it will still follow the Demon King. Therefore, they store Morgiff in the treasure room at the Covenant Castle. Ganter says that he has spread a rumor in the human world that the sword is just a legend, and that what happened at the Colosseum was because of a monster. Yuri is happy and says that now they just have to worry about a war with Cavalcade. Gwendol comes up and informs them they do not have to worry because the king of Cavalcade wanted to meet with Yuri. He says that the king's oldest son was on the ship they took, and that he had informed his father that Yuri had taken care of him. They learned that Hiscliff was the king's son. In the morning, Yuri wakes up and finds Wolfram in his bed. Yuri freaks out and runs to the bathroom. He goes to take a bath and is transported back to Earth. Yuri wakes up back in the public bath he was in with Murata. Stoffel, Seely's brother and king regent to the previous Demon Queen, is furious after being expelled from the court of the Demon King. In the alternate world, Stoffel schemes behind the scenes with his ally, Raven. Yuri returns to the Demon Kingdom after a game of baseball, landing at a fountain inside the tomb of the Great One. There he meets his advisors, and Ulrika, the highest-ranking authority among the tomb's maidens. Ulrika reveals that she never left the shrine in 800 years. She warns Conrad of an impending danger. She explains that if anything bad were to happen to him, it would sadden the Demon King. At night, Conrad and his soldiers go to investigate incidents of the villagers being attacked. During the investigation, shadowy figures infiltrate the castle. Conrad realizes that the attacks on the villagers were just a distraction to lure him out of the castle. Meanwhile, Gwendol, who is within the castle, is alerted that something is off and therefore is on guard. Worrying for Yuri's safety, Conrad rushes back to the castle. Gwendol and Conrad regroup at the castle outside Yuri's bedroom. The Demon King appears to be safe. One of the shadowy ninja figures infiltrates Yuri's room. However, only discovering Wolfram asleep on the bed, he leaves. The next morning, nothing appears to have happened. The scene then changes to Stoffel and Raven in their headquarters. Raven receives information from a Flying Bone tribe member and relays it to Stoffel. Their mission of infiltrating the castle has proved successful. Yes, it is revealed that they were behind the shadowy ninja's appearance in Covenant Castle. Ganter leads everyone, Yuri, Conrad, Wolfram, and a group of soldiers, to the treasure room. One of the soldiers reveals that they found the door to the treasure room's lock was picked. They find that the dragonstone that was part of a crown was stolen. The dragonstone is a symbol of the successive generations of demon kings and the greatest treasure of the demon kingdom. Ganter makes Yuri understand that if the stone is missing, it can be used to discredit the current Demon King. In response to this, Yuri attempts to find the stone, which leads to some comical events. During the search, the shadowy figures reveal themselves and kidnap Yuri. Conrad and Wolfram interfere and manage to capture one of the criminals. They find out from the interrogation that Stoffel was behind the stealing of the stone. The henchman reveals that Stoffel wants to speak with Yuri alone. Conrad suspects that Stoffel intends to convince Yuri of giving up the Demon King throne to him. Later that day, as Conrad, Wolfram, and Gwendol are setting off to find concrete evidence against Stoffel, Yuri comes on his horse insisting that he wants to tag along with them. Gwendol and Wolfram protest at first, but Conrad allows it. As Yuri, Wolfram, and Conrad left the castle along with some soldiers, Stoffel and Raven commence their next move. During the investigation, Conrad orders Wolfram and Yuri to stay put in a building. Yuri drags Wolfram and the remaining soldiers to conduct his own investigation of the missing Dragonstone. After walking around town for a while, Yuri and Wolfram sit and discuss why Stoffel is hated so much. Wolfram explains that 20 years ago, Stoffel instigated an unnecessary war with the humans against Sally's wishes, and that war led to the loss of many lives among the demon tribe. Wolfram also comments that during that time, Conrad lost Julia, someone extremely dear to him. Later, when they regroup with Conrad, mysterious hooded figures, Stoffel's men, jump into action and abduct Yuri. Conrad and Wolfram pursue his kidnappers, but they manage to escape with the boy. Later that night, Yuri is shown lying unconscious as Raven and Stoffel smirk in front of him. Yuri wakes to find himself in Stoffel's castle. Stoffel tries to persuade Yuri to join his side, but Yuri refuses. As Gwendol and Stoffel prepare their soldiers for war, Josak, dressed as a maid, manages to sneak into Stoffel's castle and helps Yuri out of the room he is trapped in by dressing him as a maid as well. Unfortunately, Yuri gives their position away, and he finds out that a civil war is about to start. Escaping the castle with Josak's help, Yuri reunites with Conrad and Wolfram. Yuri then proceeds to stop Gwendol and Stoffel's forces from engaging. He is unsuccessful at first. He then transforms into Demon King mode and uses his power to conjure up a tornado. Thus, he stops the two armies from clashing. As the Demon King, he scolds everyone for taking part in conflict and orders everyone to stop fighting immediately. Showing mercy to Stoffel, he sentences him to house arrest. As usual, he then collapses and faints. Raven and Stoffel are tied up, however they try to resist and capture Ganter. However, their tactics are no match for Ganter's strength. Ganter easily defeats their men, making them stand down. Later, after everything has settled down, to everyone's humorous disappointment, it is revealed that Selly was the one who stole the Dragonstone. Fooling around, Wolfram pushes Yuri and he falls into a fountain, accidentally being sucked back to Earth again. Yuri is now back to his normal routine on Earth again. Yuri and Murata go to an aquarium and see a dolphin show. Yuri gets called up to the stage to participate. The lady asks him to shake hands with a dolphin named Bandu, but Yuri is afraid of dolphins. Yuri ends up falling in the water and is transported to the other world again. When he gets there, Yuri sees a fin in the water and thinks Bandu came with him, but it ends up being a shark. Scared for his life, Yuri swims to get away from the shark. At that moment, Ganter and Conrad come to get him in a boat shaped like a bird. Conrad pulls Yuri out of the water, and Yuri is glad he wasn't eaten. Conrad explains that the sharks in the other world are actually vegetarians. When they get back on land, Ganter explains that someone jailed in Cananzia Svalera, a place south of the Demon Kingdom, was mistaken as the Demon King. It was a person who was wanted for eating at a restaurant and running away without paying the bill. They don't know if it really was Yuri, but there are rumors that he possessed the demon flute, something which can only be mastered by a demon king. Ganter says that the demon flute went missing 200 years ago. Conrad wonders if the demon flute would be put in the imposter's coffin, and Yuri is surprised that they would execute someone just for eating and running. And so he decides to go save this imposter. Hence, Yuri gets disguised again for another journey. Ganter tries to talk him out of going to Cananzia Svalera, since there has been both a drought and a civil war raging over there. But Yuri decides to go anyway. He tells Ganter that since Cananzia is their neighboring country, it is important to have good relations with it. Ganter is moved and lets him go. Yuri, Conrad, and Wolfram meet up with Gwendol in a desert in Cananzia. Conrad tells Gwendol that Yuri wants to go save his look-alike. Gwendol gets agitated hearing this and tells Conrad to take him back to the Demon Kingdom. Conrad replies that he only follows Yuri's orders. Annoyed, Gwendol walks away. They continue on their way to Svalera, and Conrad explains to Yuri why Gwendol is accompanying the group. He says that 20 years ago, Gwendol's cousin Gegenhuber Grisela was sent to search for the demon flute and went missing. Yuri says that must mean that they were very close, and Conrad kind of avoids the statement. Yuri asks if he looks like Gwendol, and Wolfram angrily states that Yuri doesn't need to know. Wolfram scolds Yuri for not holding on tightly, as he could fall off the horse, and Yuri complains that it's too hot. Yuri leans back a bit and sees a panda waving in the sand. Wolfram can't see it, and so Yuri thinks he might be hallucinating. Yuri says pandas are cute, and Conrad realizes it's a sand bear. Most of their group, including Wolfram, gets sucked down the sand bear's trap. Conrad and Gwendol grab Yuri and pull him out of the trap. Yuri is worried about Wolfram, so he orders Conrad to go after him to help him out of the trap. Obeying Yuri, Conrad chases Wolfram, sinking into the sand bear's trap. As he slips away, he tells Yuri that they will reunite in Svalera. Gwendol and Yuri spend the night camping by a fire. The dolphin charm on Yuri's belt catches Gwendol's eye, and so Yuri hands it over to him. Gwendol explains that the reason that Yuri was the only one able to see the sand bear was because it was using esoteric skills that made it invisible to everyone else. But for some reason, its esoteric skills didn't affect Yuri. Yuri then wonders what esoteric skills are and how they are different from magic. Gwendol explains that only the demon tribe can use magic, and magic skills are something that only people born with a certain soul can use. There is no other way to use magic. Esoteric skills are an ability humans gain by vows and aspirations. And in Svalera, they mine esoteric stones that allow one to use esoteric skills. These stones give powers to even those who do not have the natural ability to use it. Gwendol then comments that the sand bear was probably a trap set up by the locals so that people from other countries wouldn't come and steal their esoteric stones. Gwendol then hugs Yuri, bringing him closer for warmth. He asks if Yuri likes animals. Yuri replies that he doesn't like orange rabbits, and that rather than cats, he likes lions, especially white lions. The next morning, they continue traveling and arrive in a city. They are greeted by soldiers who tell them that they can't bring their horses into the city. Gwendol asks whether there is an inn, upon which a soldier replies by leading them to it. As they walk through the small village, they notice that the walls of the buildings are covered with posters. Not being able to read them, Yuri thinks that they are election campaign posters or something. The soldiers then trap Yuri and Gwendol in a house. Apparently, those posters were all wanted posters depicting a gray-haired demon tribe member and a brown-haired human girl who are wanted for eloping. They see the stamp from the aquarium that Yuri went to with Murata and think it's a symbol marking an eloper. They force Gwendol to handcuff himself to Yuri. Yuri then remembers what his mother did to him while practicing self-defense and tries to recreate her movements. He attempts to break himself free from the soldier's hold, but he is too short for his head to reach the soldier's chin. The soldier lets go, and Yuri turns and knees him in the crotch. This allows Gwendol and Yuri enough time to run away. After traveling for a while, Gwendol and Yuri decide they must go to a church to remove the chains, because they are embedded with esoteric stones. The only way to remove them is to get an esoteric skill user to remove them. They arrive in the capital city of Svalera and cover the chains with cloth so they don't stand out so much. They enter a church where they find a wedding in progress inside. The priest thinks they are a couple and asks them to say a few words, but Gwendol explains that Yuri is actually his brother's fiancé. Deciding he should at least say something, Yuri attempts to explain a weird Japanese tradition on the importance of the rite of 3 bags. He explains the third rite in this tradition is of comparing gloves to marriage. He goes on to imply that as mittens are made in a pair and shouldn't be separated, the nature of marriage is very similar. Hearing this causes the bride to realize that she's making a mistake marrying the man in front of her at the altar, so runs out of the church and pulls them along with her. As they run away together, the girl introduces herself as Nicola, and when Yuri introduces Gwendol to her, she remarks that Gwendol looks just like someone she knows. When they stop for a rest, Nicola reveals that she is pregnant, and Yuri is shocked that she was getting married to someone else while she is pregnant with another guy's baby. Gwendol asks her if she knows about the wanted picture, and she tells them that it is a wanted poster of her and a certain Hube. Gwendol asks if by Hube she means Gegenhuber Grisela, and when she wonders how he knows his name, Gwendol tells her that he is his cousin. Wolfram and Conrad continue on their way after getting out of the Sandbear's trap. A soldier tells Conrad that one of the soldiers, named Ryan, went AWOL saying he met his soulmate. Conrad dismisses him by saying that he won't be punished. Conrad and Wolfram decide to go investigate the city. On the other hand, Nicola, Gwendol, and Yuri are cornered in the city with soldiers searching all over when a young boy, Jilta, comes to help them. He hides them in his house. He tells them his father is dead and his mother is working far away. Nicola tells Yuri that she's probably working at the mines since women who commit the sin of loving a demon tribe member are sent there. Jilta explains that he lives with his grandfather, whose care he was left in by his demon tribe member father. Wolfram and Conrad continue to the city. Wolfram tells Conrad he needs to teach Yuri how to use a sword, since it would be improper for a gentleman to teach his own fiancée. He argues that Conrad had no need to come in the Sandbear's trap to save him. He could have gotten out on his own fine. Conrad explains that it was only because of Yuri's order that he did it. In the city, Conrad finds that Gwendol and Yuri are thought to be elopers and are handcuffed together. Yuri asks for water, but is told that there is no water in Svalera. It hasn't rained there at all for 2 years. Nicola then gives her wedding ring to Jilta and tells him to go buy some fruits in exchange for it. Gwendol asks how she met Hube. She explains that she worked at the mine near the fallen country of Zorachia where she met him. They mined esoteric stones together, and they hit it off quickly. He told her he was searching for the demon flute that was hidden in some esoteric stone ruins near the town, and so she helped him search for it. The town elder found out they took it, and so they ran, but were eventually captured. They decide that Hube was mistaken as the Demon King because he had the demon flute. She then reveals that she has the demon flute and hands it to Yuri. Jilta returns with some fruit, and so they eat, and then Yuri tries to play the demon flute. The scene changes to Ganter, who is lamenting that he won't be able to see Yuri play the demon flute when he finds it. Anasina comes up and says that it was Gegenhuber's fault that Julia died 20 years ago. His want to rule over the humans caused her death. And so, after the war, Gwendol banished him to search for the demon flute that had been lost for 200 years. Anasina then says that she's been researching ways to make it rain and brings out her new invention, Make It Rain Right Now. Back with Yuri, the demon flute doesn't make any noise, and then Gwendol notices there are soldiers gathered outside to capture them. Jilta takes Nicola out a secret passageway. As he leaves, Jilta tells them that Hube is the one who brought him to live with his grandfather. Yuri and Gwendol try to resist the soldiers that gang up on them, but end up being captured. Later at dusk, Conrad and Wolfram arrive outside Svalera. Conrad and Wolfram arrive at their designated meeting place, but when Gwendol and Yuri aren't there, they figure something must have happened and go searching for them. Wolfram wonders why he must hide himself, and Conrad tells him it's because he stands out, and the country of Cananzia doesn't like Demon Tribe members very much. Wolfram is also feeling bad from the amount of esoteric power in the area. Gwendol and Yuri are being transported somewhere in a cage. Gwendol wonders why Yuri gets himself involved in everything and doesn't just leave matters for his subordinates to handle. Yuri tells him he's just doing things normally, how he would do things even if he weren't king, and that if he did something wrong, his trusted advisors would stop him. Gwendol is impressed and smiles. The soldiers let them out, and Gwendol and Yuri are taken into a courthouse. Gwendol suddenly starts feeling sick because its walls are embedded with esoteric stones emitting esoteric power. According to Gwendol, esoteric power is energy that conflicts with the powers of the demon tribe. They continue to the courtroom where they are put to trial for being elopers, and the judge tells Yuri he must stab Gwendol to prove their bond isn't strong. Gwendol tells Yuri to do it, but he refuses. They try to leave, but Gwendol is overcome by esoteric power in the area. The soldiers move to hit Gwendol, but Yuri jumps in their way, defending Gwendol and taking all of their hits in his stead. Meanwhile, as Jilta and Nicola are hiding from the soldiers in pursuit of them, Conrad and Wolfram come to their rescue. Nicola recognizes the two brothers as members of the demon tribe. Hence, they get acquainted, and Conrad and Wolfram find out about what happened to Gwendol and Yuri. Nicola figures that as Gwendol and Yuri have been mistaken as elopers, Yuri, who is being regarded as the female in their relationship, will be sent to the esoteric stone quarry while Gwendol will be arrested. Later at night, Conrad and Wolfram come to Gwendol's rescue, freeing him from his shackles. The next day, Yuri finds out that all the people that are sentenced to work at the mines are women who have committed the crime of loving a demon tribe member. Working at mines, Yuri gets acquainted with a woman prisoner over there named Norika. As they are talking, Yuri notices that some soldiers are trying to bury another female prisoner's baby alive. He rushes to her aid, snatching away the baby from the group of soldiers. The situation triggers him to go into Demon King mode. At that moment, Gwendol, Wolfram, and Conrad also arrive at the mine. Wolfram and Gwendol are severely weakened by the amount of esoteric power that the esoteric stones in the area are emitting. However, Gwendol fights his weakness and walks over to Yuri, convincing him to not bury the soldiers alive as punishment for the atrocities they have committed. Yuri wakes up to find his head resting on Wolfram's lap. He worries about Gwendol after seeing Wolfram sick from the esoteric power in the area. Conrad walks over to him and reassures him that Gwendol is okay and that his life is not in danger. It appears that most of the female prisoners, the wives of demon tribe members, are fleeing the mines to reunite with their husbands in the demon kingdom. Yuri brightens up hearing this. He orders his men to gather all the women at the mine so that they can travel together, back to the great demon kingdom. At that moment, Gwendol comes walking towards them. He is so weak that Nicola and Jilta have to support him while he walks. After everyone is gathered, Norika, the woman Yuri met in the previous episode, is reunited with her son, Jilta, and her father in a heartwarming scene. Yes, the boy that helped Nicola, Gwendol, and Yuri hide from their pursuers is coincidentally Norika's son. Yuri then manages to find the second part of the demon flute buried in the ground. It is revealed that not only did Gegenhuber save Jilta's life when he was a baby, he also managed to secure the demon flute. As Yuri, the remaining women, and the brothers traverse the desert to escape the forces, they are attacked by a sand bear and the Svalera army. Yuri plays the demon flute, which summons a storm that stops the prison guard army. Ryan, the soldier that deserted Yuri's, then assists their escape with his newly tamed partner, the sand bear. Back at the castle, Yuri tries to return home, but finds out he cannot go home. Frustrated, he goes to Ulriki for help, but she determines that it is the will of the Great One that Yuri is unable to return home. Yuri feels low from being apart from his family and friends on Earth, but Conrad cheers him up by proving to him that he has made people's lives better by becoming Demon King. Conrad then points towards Nicola, Norika, Jilta, and Norika's father, who are standing in front of Yuri in gratitude for saving them. Later, Yuri visits Gwendol, who is heavily injured with 3 fractured ribs. Gisela tends to his wounds, and Gwendol gifts Yuri a stuffed toy kitten in exchange for the little dolphin that Yuri gave Gwendol. Yuri is awed by his sweet gesture. Somewhere in the castle, Gunter places the demon flute in a box and comments that now Yuri is one step closer to becoming the true Demon King. Yuri's day starts with history lessons from Ganter. Apparently, he is easily tired from studying. A short while later, he practices baseball with Conrad. Yuri notices movement among the soldiers and finds out it is because Demon Stone was stolen from a convoy of Demon Tribe brigands. Josak explains the importance of Demon Stones to Yuri. Demon Stones are used to fix broken magic-powered devices and restore one's magic powers. Interested by the news, Yuri sets off into the city to find the stone with Josak, Conrad, and Wolfram. They find the missing Demon Stone in the hands of Rose and her family, who run a small tavern in the city. The family is trying to use the stone's power to repair magic tools and restore magic to earn more money for food. Yuri then decides to help them to get enough food. While they are helping Rose, thieves that are trying to reclaim the Demon Stone attack them. Wolfram intercepts them, skillfully tearing off all their clothes with his sword, making them run away. At night, they find out that the thieves kidnapped Rose's younger brother, Risotto. Rose sets off with the Demon Stone to exchange it with the thieves in order to rescue her sibling. As she is confronting the thugs, Yuri, Conrad, Wolfram, Josak, and Ganter come in time to get the Demon Stone and save Rose's brother. However, the leader of the thieves takes Rose hostage, holding a knife against her throat. This enrages Yuri, triggering him to go into Demon King mode. Yuri uses magic to defeat all the thieves and rescues Rose. Conrad decides to let Rose use the Demon Stone for business, allowing their shop to prosper. Stoffel and Raven attempt to appease Yuri by throwing a celebration for him. Selly bursts into the room and declares she is going to get remarried and that she is going to marry Raven, which shocks Raven and Stoffel. Stoffel, Raven, and Selly's past is revealed. As Yuri and his advisors, the 3 brothers and Ganter arrive at Stoffel's castle, they are astonished to find out about the wedding. Yuri's advisors are highly suspicious of the wedding, worrying that this may lead to Stoffel and Raven gaining more power. During the ceremony, Ryan along with his Sandbear partner arrive. The Sandbear's entrance, however, causes a sinkhole to form which Stoffel, Raven, Selly, Yuri, Gwendol, and Conrad fall into. Raven and Selly reminisce about their childhood memories at an underground crystal cave they discover. Afterwards, Stoffel, Yuri, Gwendol, and Conrad find Raven. Selly has left the area by then, and Raven reveals that she has changed her mind about marrying him. She is shown traveling far away on a boat somewhere. Wolfram is trying to paint the portrait of an annoyed Yuri. Yuri claims that he wants to do the task somewhere else. Wolfram answers that the only place with space is the guest house. However, the guest house is occupied by monsters. Hence, Yuri and Wolfram enter the building to get rid of whatever is inside. Both Yuri and Wolfram fall to the basement of the building due to its weak floors. There they meet caterpillar creatures that soon wrap themselves into cocoons. Wolfram and Yuri have an argument about killing the monsters or letting them live. Meanwhile, Gwendol and Ganter search for Wolfram and Yuri. The building starts to collapse, but the cocoons metamorphose into giant bear bees that keep it stable and prevent it from falling apart. Conrad later reveals that he had hid the caterpillars in the building when they were eggs, and that he had spread the rumor about the monsters in the building in order to protect them from being hunted. At the end of the episode, everyone watches as the bear bees fly towards the sky. Yuri thinks that a fantasy world calls for a fantasy adventure. He has decided that he wants to see a dragon. Wolfram, Conrad, Ganter, and Yuri set out to observe dragons but not hunt them. They are an endangered species after all. When they reach the dragon's nest, Yuri falls off a cliff. The dragon resting in the nest is alerted to his presence. It flies to him, grabs him with its teeth, and throws him in its nest. It turns out that the dragon is very friendly and docile. It licks Yuri in a gesture of love, and its blue baby dragon in the nest does does the same. Yuri befriends both dragons quickly and tells his men that they are harmless. Their cute moment is interrupted by some trespassing human poachers attack, looking to kill and sell the dragons. The group of poachers includes a young human hero, Alfred. Alfred wields a holy sword and tries to kill the supposed evil demon king. Conrad knocks Alfred out and captures him. The rest of Alfred's group escape, led by Belma, a pink-haired sorceress that uses esoteric powers. Later that night, Belma and her accomplices plot to capture the Demon King instead of a dragon, as he will be a much more valuable prize. The next morning, Ganter, Wolfram, Conrad, and Yuri have breakfast along with their prisoner Alfred and the baby dragon. Yuri names the baby dragon Pochi. Alfred is shocked to learn that Yuri is a decent person, as he had always known the demon tribe members to be cold-blooded brutes. When Ganter accuses Alfred of being a poacher, Alfred retaliates by saying that he is not a poacher. He explains that he was attempting to slay the dragon for two reasons. Firstly, he wanted to prove to himself and his father that he is worthy of wielding the holy sword. Secondly, Belma and her goons approached him before, claiming that they needed a dragon's heart to cure a child's sickness. Therefore, Alfred offered to assist them. Ganter tells him that it is an urban myth that a dragon's heart has medicinal properties. In reality, it has no benefits. Ganter speculates that Belma and her goons wanted to kill the dragon to sell its scales and its ivory. Alfred realizes that he had been fooled by Belma. Yuri walks up to Alfred and cuts the ropes with which he was bound, freeing him as his prisoner. Later, Belma and her goons try to stir up some trouble by enraging the dragon. Their goal is to create a distraction and capture Yuri. As she takes Yuri hostage, he awakens his Demon King mode and defeats her. Alfred faces the enraged dragon, but instead of fighting it, he lays down his arms and calms it down. Afterwards, the party finds the dragon a new nest in a cave. Yuri and his men and Alfred then part ways on good terms. A young girl shows up claiming to be Yuri's illegitimate child and then tries to kill Yuri. Yuri, compassionate as always, decides to give the girl the benefit of the doubt and assures everyone that there must have been a good reason behind the commotion she has stirred up. To recover from a twisted ankle received during the assassination attempt, Yuri, along with Conrad, Wolfram, and the little girl head to another country to visit some hot springs. The little girl appears to have a fever, so Yuri takes care of her. She reveals her name to be Greta. When Yuri slips and falls on her bed, Greta gets scared as if some past trauma of hers has been triggered. Then, when Yuri calms her down and helps her up, their hands start glowing in a strange green light when they clasp them together. Later, when they arrive at their destination, another strange event occurs. The masked bodyguard of the city's casino seems to recognize someone from Yuri's group, and he mutters something to himself. Later that night, Greta confronts Yuri, saying that she saw someone she knows earlier and that she desperately needs to meet him. Despite the fact that Conrad had told him to stay put, and even though he is still suffering from a twisted ankle, Yuri takes Greta into town. Yuri gets a sense of déjà vu when he stops to defend a girl from some bullies harassing her, and she promptly runs away. Yuri grabs Greta and runs, and the same girl, who was a victim of the bullies, helps them hide from them. Yuri, Greta, and the girl go to a restaurant where they treat Greta to some ramen noodles. However, they are eventually caught. Meanwhile, Conrad and Wolfram notice that Yuri is not in his bed thus. They rush outside to search for him. During their search, Wolfram encounters the strange, masked bodyguard of the casino from the previous episode. The masked man attacks Wolfram. He defeats him with ease and walks away. On the other hand, the bullies lock Greta, Yuri, and the girl in a dungeon. Here, Greta reveals that she is from Svalera. She explains that she lived in a huge castle in Svalera with her adoptive parents. Her adoptive parents hated the demon tribe. She tells Yuri that the reason why she attacked him, the Demon King, is to please her adoptive parents. Due to a commotion caused by another woman in the cell, they manage to escape, but they are being chased by the bullies. However, they are saved by Conrad and Wolfram in the nick of time. Hiscliff, the prince who they met on their voyage to Vandevia Island, also shows up along with Conrad and Wolfram. Heathcliff wants to get back all the property in this town that a man named Louis Byron swindled and forced from their owners. It appears that the bullies were also Louis Byron's men. In other words, the group is in his base of operations. Storming his hideout, the group goes to confront him. Louis Byron is being guarded by the same masked man from before. Greta recognizes him and appears somewhat disturbed. The masked man dashes past Wolfram and attacks Yuri, but Conrad steps in to protect him. A counter from Conrad slashes open his opponent's mask. The masked man is revealed to be Gegenhuber Grisela, or Hube, as many call him, and apparently Greta also knows him. Conrad's attack sends Hube into critical condition. Hube, who now lay dying, has Greta clinging to him. She tells the others that in her old home, Hube, who was locked in the dungeon, was the only one who would talk or listen to her. Yuri wants to help him, but Conrad doesn't want him to. Wolfram steps in and heals Hube only because it is what Yuri desires. The next day, Yuri and the others go to a rare animal race. It turns out that after the fight between Conrad and Hube, Yuri demanded Byron to return everything he stole. Byron said he would if Yuri could beat him in a gambling contest. The stakes are that if Yuri wins, Byron will return everything he obtained through swindling, and that if Yuri loses, he becomes Byron's slave. Conrad assures Yuri that he'd pick him up and run if they lost. Byron bets that his huge koala look-alike animal, known as Goala, will win, while Yuri bets on Ryan's giant sand bear partner, whose name is Keiji. It seems that not only can the Goala bear run very fast, it's also carnivorous in its demon form. However, as Goala is about to overtake Keiji, it jumps and clings to the branch of a tree nearby, falling to sleep. Byron snaps at Heathcliff, who is aware of the outcome from the very beginning of the race. Even though Keiji wins the race, Byron refuses to keep his end of the deal. Byron sets fire to the properties he had gained through illegal means. Infuriated, Yuri enters Demon King mode and serves his signature justice move, resolving the situation. Towards the end, Wolfram, Conrad, and Yuri depart the town, taking Hube and Greta with them. Even in his injured state, Hube whispers out Julia's name. Hube is returned to the Demon Kingdom, and it seems that no one seems to like him. Even though he is unconscious, Gwendol attacks him the moment he lays his eyes on him. Yuri is not happy with his actions. Everyone then returns to the castle. Gisela takes the responsibility of nursing Hube back to health. Somewhere in the halls of the castle, Yuri overhears Gwendol, Conrad, and Wolfram talking about Hube. Gwendol is of the opinion that Hube's crimes are unforgivable, as many people, including Susanna Julia, died because of him. Conrad thinks that he has atoned for his crimes by living the life of a vagabond all these years. However, he says that he cannot forgive Hube for attempting to attack Yuri. Later, Greta tells Yuri that Hube had once told her that he had done something unforgivable. Yuri then learns through Gisela what exactly happened to Julia and why everyone blamed Hube. Julia the White, as she was known, was a powerful sorceress who descended from the 10 aristocrats. She was one of the 3 great witches of the Demon Kingdom, alongside Anasina and Selly. Gisela also reveals that Julia was Adalbert's fiancée. It turns out that 20 years ago, during the war with Big Cimarron, Hube, who was opposed to half-blood demon tribesmen like Conrad, accused them of being traitors and spies. To clear their name, Conrad led an expedition against the enemy, and all of his men were killed during the battle. Hube then led an unplanned attack himself, causing further fatalities among the demon tribe army. And Julia, who was at the battlefield along with Gisela, spent too much of her energy healing the wounded. As a result, Julia passed away. The blame for everything that transpired was laid upon Hube. Later that night, Hube wakes up, finds a sword from somewhere in the castle, and attacks Yuri again while he is chatting with Conrad. Conrad defends Yuri from Hube's vicious advance. Gwendol decides that he must die for his crimes. Both Greta and Nicola do their best to try and help Hube. Later, everyone ends up forgiving Hube, and Yuri pardons him for his crimes. Suddenly, the pregnant Nicola goes into labor. Shortly afterwards, Nicola's baby boy is born, and Yuri decides to adopt Greta. Later that night, Yuri expresses to Conrad that he misses his homeland. Conrad, with the help of some soldiers, establishes a baseball field in the Demon Kingdom to help cheer up Yuri. And he does feel better up until he gets sucked into a portal and wakes up on Earth with Murata by his side. He returns to the dolphin show from where he had left off before. Conrad thinks about how life seems to continue, though more slowly when Yuri is not around. He recalls a tragedy at the end of the 20-year war and remembers the time he went to Earth to deliver the Demon King's soul to a certain mother-to-be, that is, Yuri's mother, Miko. Ulrike and the other shrine maidens notice something weird happening with Yuri's soul. The scene changes to Yuri and Murata, who are working at the beach. Murata is on the phone with Yuri's mother. Yuri wonders why Murata has blonde hair and colored contacts. Murata explains that he's trying to get a girlfriend. A girl comes up to them and says that her friend's bikini top got swept away and asks them to go get it. Upon this, Murata volunteers Yuri to do it. So Yuri swims out to get it, but is sucked down a whirlpool. Again, that transports him to the other world. Murata dives in after him, but can't find any trace of his friend. When Yuri arrives in the other world, he ends up in an alcohol barrel. Ganter, Greta, and Conrad arrive to get him. Conrad tells him they must move to somewhere safe. Yuri is confused that even though they are in the Demon Kingdom, it isn't considered a safe area. Conrad and Ganter explain that they didn't summon Yuri this time. It appears that someone else called him there and that there is some unrest in the human countries, so they want to send him back to Earth. There are preparations being made to send him back. As they set off, Ganter is shot with an arrow. Conrad insists that Yuri and Greta go ahead to a church. Conrad leaves Ganter behind and escorts them. At the church, Conrad barricades the door and tells Yuri and Greta to hide. Conrad leaves his scabbard on the altar and tells Yuri to splash the water on the altar onto the picture on the wall. Yuri does so and the picture starts shining. Just then, the bad guys break through the door. They run past Conrad to attack Yuri. Conrad runs after them to protect him and tells Yuri to go through the painting. Yuri watches them fight and sees Conrad's arm cut off. Yuri is then pushed through the painting. Gwendol and Wolfram arrive to see what has happened and find Ganter. The soldiers explain that he put himself into suspended animation to prevent a poison from spreading through his body. The soldiers say that they found no sign of Yuri, but they found Conrad's arm. Yuri wakes up on a beach and thinks he's back on Earth. Murata is lying beside him. A foreign-looking girl comes up and freaks about Yuri's black-colored eyes and hair. Thus, Yuri thinks he might still be in the other world. Murata thinks that they have drifted off to a foreign country. Yuri trades his jacket for Murata's sunglasses to hide his black eyes. Yuri and Murata work in order to earn money for a trip back home. The town they are in consists mostly of old people. They talk to an old man who tells them they are at Gilbert Harbor in Kaloria, a place somewhere in Cimarron. Murata wonders why there are only old people at the harbor, and Yuri wonders how Murata can understand their language. The man explains that all the young people there were drafted for a war. Murata asks about the big mansion, and the men explain that it's their lord's mansion. Murata says they should go there, but the men tell them that Norman Gilbert won't see anyone. They say that Norman was in an accident 3 years ago and hasn't seen anyone since, but there are rumors that he has healed and is living in the mansion. Yuri and Murata go to the mansion anyway, and when they get there, the guards let them in because Yuri has a seal of Wincott, the blue stone that Conrad gave him. They are brought inside and introduced to Norman, who always wears a mask. It is revealed that Josek is the old man they talked to in the last episode. He sends a note via pigeon messenger somewhere. Meanwhile, Gwendol and Anasina talk about how Ganter has been poisoned by Wincott poison, a poison that has not been used in 1,000 years. To save Ganter's life, Anasina places his soul temporarily inside a doll. The scene changes to Yuri and Murata, who are at the Norman mansion. The butler there explains that because of an accident 3 years ago, Norman can no longer talk, so he speaks for him. Murata introduces Yuri as Colonel Crusoe. The butler asks how he is related to the Wincotts, and Murata tells them that his mother is the dead, Susanna Julia von Wincott. The butler tells them that the Wincotts used to rule that land, but after they helped defeat the originators, they became evil with power, and so the residents there overthrew their tyrannical government and founded Kaloria. Murata does not believe that version of history. Lord Maxine, a mysterious man with a ponytail, then enters the room with Adalbert. Maxine says he has heard rumors that Caloria has plans to trade with Big Cimarron, even though they are under Small Cimarron. He then pulls off Norman's mask, revealing his face. The scene changes to Wolfram, who goes to the shrine of the Great One to talk to Ulrika. He pushes past the guards, who are telling him that he cannot enter. Once inside, he runs into Gisela, who is there to thank the Great One for saving her father, Ganter's life. Wolfram continues to Ulrika and demands to see her. She explains that something brought Yuri to this world, and when they tried to send him back, something interfered and they lost him. Ulrike shows them a device that lets them see where all of the former Demon Kings are. There is a bright shining star which represents Selly. A flash goes by near her and they realize it's Yuri. They conclude that Yuri is somewhere in Cimarron. Back with Yuri, Flynn Gilbert, the person who has been unmasked by Maxine, explains that her husband Norman died in the accident 3 years ago. Since they didn't have any children, and under Cimarron law, they aren't allowed to assign an heir after death, plus women aren't allowed to rule, she disguised herself as her husband. Maxine says that King Salaregi of Small Cimarron sent him to investigate the mansion. Maxine accuses Flynn of selling Wincott poison to someone. When Maxine asks her who she gave it to, she refuses to answer, and so Maxine threatens to strangle Flynn with a string. When Flynn's butler tries to stop him, he gets punched. When Yuri tries to stand up for them, Adalbert recognizes him and asks if Conrad gave him the pendant. Yuri says yes, and Adalbert remarks that it has turned his color. Some soldiers from Big Cimarron interrupt, and Maxine and Adalbert run away. The soldiers that come in are the same ones that attacked Conrad at the church. Yuri gets upset over Conrad and uses his Demon King power against them, destroying the entire mansion. He passes out, and Murata tells Flynn that he won't help evil people. Meanwhile, in the Demon Kingdom, the pigeon messenger that Josak sent arrives, telling them that Yuri is in Cimarron. Wolfram wants to go find him, but Gwendol won't let him. While he is sulking that he isn't allowed to go, Gisela comes up to Wolfram and tells him that she is planning on going on a trip to the hot springs in Hildyard and Vandevia. Wolfram realizes that it is a secret plan to go to Cimarron and asks to tag along with them. Don't you find it strange that Murata knew who Julia was? Indeed, Murata is something more than just Yuri's friend. It will later be revealed that he holds a high place in Demon Tribe society. Tune in to find out more about the ultimate tournament arc that is about to come. A number of interesting events and battles are about to take place involving strange devices known as the Forbidden Boxes. For now, the end.